Hi and welcome to this video. In this video, I want to take a few minutes to share with you a couple of things. Number one, I want to share with you a perspective on perspective, and also I want to elaborate on the couple of images that I sent to you in an earlier announcement. So why make this video today? Well, the reason I make this video today is that today is the first day of the Chinese New Year. Now, I have no idea about Chinese astrology. I don't know what a number of these things mean, but through popular culture, we know that it is the year of the monkey. And with a little bit more digging, we can find out that it's the year of the steel monkey in a fire year. Once again, I don't know anything about Chinese astrology, and this video is for the course on learning to read your Vedic birth chart, so it's kind of out of the scope of this course. Now, the reason I mention this is that it's all about perspective. And I love perspective because, as a leadership life coach, I get to work with so many different people from around the world who have a wide variety of perspectives that they bring to the table. And every single perspective is just that. It's a perspective. It's an interpretation of all of the situations, events, and conversations that have happened to those individuals in their life. So what does this have to do with astrology, you ask? Well, the reason I mention this is that every single human being on this planet lives on this planet. Every single human being is part of a larger culture. It could be the Chinese culture, it could be the Indian culture, it could be the Western culture, European culture, North American culture, whatever culture it is, every human being is part of some sort of culture. Each of these cultures looks out at the sky and they see the same thing. But every one of these cultures has a different interpretation for what those stars, what those planets, what those night lights out there mean. Many cultures like the Chinese, the Japanese, the Indians, the Europeans, the Greeks, the Romans, they all have their mythologies, they all have their creation stories, and those stories have something to do with the cosmos. So I invite you to consider that when you approach the study of astrology, when you approach the study of the celestial bodies. So I hope this has been a little bit helpful to give you an idea of kind of the depth, the wonder, the mystery, the magic of astrology and of astronomy. So with that, let's just go to the course where I can elaborate a little bit more on the images that I sent to you. A couple of days ago, I sent you this announcement that had a couple of images in it. Now, these images, when you click on them, they take you to a Google Drive with the file. So you can actually see the two images here in Google Drive. Now, these two images are the sky, and they're the sky with all of the constellations mapped out. And this is from a Western perspective. And this includes all of the constellations all of the stars actually, that are seen from the sky in the Northern Hemisphere and the Southern Hemisphere. The second image is the image based upon the importance that the Indians or the Vedic culture have placed upon a certain grouping of stars. That's not to say that the Indians only saw these stars, and that's not to say that the Westerners or the Europeans or whoever made these constellations, they saw everything. No, really, the idea once again is about cultures having certain importance or assigning a certain interpretation or value to a certain group of stars. And in this case, it's the constellations that follow the ecliptic. Now, there's a term that I use here which I think is really important, and that's to understand what the ecliptic is. And the ecliptic is the apparent path that the sun moves in as it orbits the earth. Now, keep this in mind. Everything is about perspective. You and I, we are on this planet Earth, and from our perspective, Earth is stationary. It doesn't move. Everything moves around the earth. Everything revolves around the earth. And that's why this is important to understand the concept of the ecliptic. So let's go back to that image to understand where the ecliptic is and what it means. Using the Indian perspective, or at least the constellations listed here because it's a little bit less noisy, you'll notice that there's a red line, and this line marks the path of the sun as it rises from the east, travels across the sky to the south, and then sets in the west, and then goes on to the other side of the world, comes out, rises there, and then comes back here, and then rises once again in the east. Now, this is just a perspective of looking at the world in one way, looking at the sky in one way. So the ecliptic here is this line in a darker red. There are a few other lines that are equally as important. The first line is the horizontal green line, and this is the horizon. Do you remember what I said about perspective? Well, from my vantage point, actually this is from my vantage point on February 6th at 11:45 a.m. And from my vantage point, everything above this green line right up here, this is the sky. And this is actually what I would have seen if there was no sun in the way. Remember, it was at 11:45 in the morning, and the sun right now is actually in the constellation of Capricorn. So you can see that Capricorn is kind of really bright. So if there was no sun, and if I had perfect vision and I had a nice telescope instead of normal human eyes, I could see all of these constellations and I could make some sort of sense out of them. And once again, I invite you to consider the perspective, because everything below this line, from my perspective, is the ground. But for the people who live on the other side of the earth, who live on the other side of the planet, who live on the opposite longitude where I live, this is their sky. They get to see this. And for them, what I see is what they don't see. So keep that in mind as we explore this image a little bit further. The other lines that are important are the meridian lines, and the meridian lines are from north to south. And that's why it's duplicated on both ends here, because this is kind of a map that goes up and down and then comes up like this. So these are the cardinal points. This is from my vantage looking east. This is the sign that I would have seen on February 6th at 11:45 a.m. as I looked over the eastern horizon, and of course it's in Pisces. If I turned west and looked, I would catch the tail end of Capricorn here, and then if I moved west, then I wouldn't have seen Virgo, but I would have seen maybe the nakshatra Swati here. And when I move north, I won't be able to see Cancer, but I would have been able to see the Big Dipper, were it not for it being daylight. Another line I want to point out is the galactic equator. Now, I have a better image of this, so let me just pull that up for you so that you can see. Now, here's the software that I used to create those images. Now, this is the galactic equator, and I brightened it up because all the stuff around the equator, around the galactic equator, is the stars that are part of the Milky Way. So this is the galaxy that we get to see. And at the center here, as we look toward this direction in the tail end of Scorpio, this is toward the center of the Milky Way galaxy. And on the opposite side, which is out here, where are you? Where it's out here, this is Ardra in Orion, that's Betelgeuse in the Western name, and this is looking away from the galaxy. So as the galaxy sort of expands and spins, this is looking toward the center of the galaxy, and over here we're looking outward through to other galaxies, of course. Now these lines are important because they have some sort of meaning. Mula is the nakshatra that is at the center of the galaxy, or at least goes toward the center of the galaxy. Now Mula, I think, corresponds to Lambda Scorpii, so it's one of the constellations here on the tail of Scorpio. And Ardra is another nakshatra, which actually is for Betelgeuse, and it looks away from the center of the galaxy and it's looking outward. Now these 2 points have importance in at least Vedic astrology, but they have importance in other astrologies as well, because Mula is toward the center of the galaxy and Ardra is away from it. Now, why are all of these points important? Well, from the intersection of the horizon, the rising sign that we see at the time of birth, well, that constellation that we get to see, that becomes our ascendant, and it creates a tremendous, powerful path of Dharma and karma that we get to live out. And that becomes very important. The other thing about all of these constellations as they follow the ecliptic is these constellations are environments. You could say they are stellar environments that have a backdrop of cosmic radiation, of gamma rays, of microwaves, of X-rays, and all sorts of other kinds of cosmic radiation that have an influence on the grahas, or the planets within our solar system. So the invitation with these images in the announcement that I sent you earlier, I think, was to just notice what kind of resonance or story and meaning you have to these constellations as you learn more about them. Another question was, what speaks to you? So once again, take a look at these constellations, and you're welcome to look at either the Indian one or all of the Western ones, but just notice which of these constellations speaks to you and why. The whole idea behind all of this, and you'll notice, is that I'm a real keen believer in noticing what shows up. Noticing the thoughts, the ideas, the physical sensations, and most especially the emotions that are triggered when you identify these patterns and these ideas for yourself. Another question that I think is kind of important, it's not so much as a question as it is a little bit of homework, is to identify which of the planets exist along the zodiacal signs. And the reason why this is important is, I think it might be better here in this other software, is just notice where are these planets in your birth chart or in David Bowie's birth chart. And you can notice certain patterns. Are they clumped in Pisces, for example? Are they in Leo? Are they close to the galactic center? Are they further away from it? Are they situated along the galactic plane somehow? Like, these patterns are some things that you can notice. Now, all of these, of course, have different degrees of nuance, and some of them become irrelevant when you're deepening your Vedic studies. But for now, it's really about ensuring that you pique your curiosity, ensuring that you become interested in the sky above you. Because no matter what we're doing, we are living on this planet. And while we live on this planet, everything here seems so real to us. But the invitation that I want to leave you with is that we exist on this single planet in this solar system that is hurtling through space in this huge, majestic galaxy of the Milky Way. So I hope this has been helpful, and I hope I haven't confused you at all. But if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll be there as a source of support for you and to answer any questions that you may have. So take care of yourself. Have a wonderful day, evening, and rest of the week. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye for now.